In the dense cities of the Northeast, urban green space and locally grown food are hard to come by. Now, there's a movement to create not just green space, but growing space. South Street Farm in Somerville, Massachusetts is part of that movement.
I think a lot of people are pretty surprised by the work that we do here. A lot of the comments that I'll even get when people visit the farm is, wow, I've lived in Somerville for 20 years and I never knew that this place existed.
Beyond providing green space, urban farming reconnects community members to each other through the practice of growing food. At the Hurley Street Farm in Cambridge, some of the crops go to a local food pantry.
This year we're doing something a little different, which is I've been going to East End House a lot and trying to meet people that come to the food pantry regularly and to see the types of stuff that they normally get, the types of stuff that they get excited about, and try to make sure that we're also growing things that work for them.
Making sure these community partnerships thrive isn't just about planting seeds and letting them grow. There's a crucial element that urban farmers have to consider as they grow their food. Is it safe? The soil itself can be a hazard, one that you can't escape.
The land that we're on now was an auto junkyard, Nissenbaum's Auto Parts, since 1913. I mean, 100 years of having heavy metals and oil and all these sorts of things leaching into your soil definitely means that you have to be careful with what you grow.
As an environmental toxicologist and an environmental health scientist, most of the work we do is finding bad things. One of them is lead.
The contamination doesn't just come from auto junkyards and industrial sources. It's in neighborhoods too. This is because, until 1978, lead paint was everywhere.
That lead paint chips, it peels, and when it rains or the wind blows, you get dust from those buildings that deposits on the soil.
The problem isn't that your plants absorb lead. The biggest risk comes from the soil on your hands. Maybe you touch your mouth, or you've lunch in the garden, and before you know it, you've eaten lead. In adults, it can damage the kidneys and the nervous system, and lead is especially bad for kids because it can stunt their development. You can send samples off to local labs to see if your soil has lead. If the soil tests high in contaminants, you can do a few simple things to reduce the danger. Wash your hands after working in the dirt, and don't forget to wash your plants too. Most importantly, build up. Construct raised beds to put some distance between yourself and the contaminated ground. Then, fill the beds with new, clean soil and compost. When the Hurley Street farmers tested their soil, they found disturbingly high levels of lead. So, they built raised beds. Every few years, they fill them with fresh soil.
We're getting a delivery of super soil, so it's soil and compost together. We're getting it delivered so that we can top off all of the existing soil we have in all of our beds and make sure all the plants we're about to put in have the nutrients that they need to grow this season.
This is what it takes: time, money, and sweat to make an urban farm a place where everyone can get their hands dirty safely. Despite the commitment, urban farming is always precarious.
The farm is projected to have to move within the next sort of 5 to 8 years or so. It was actually supposed to be 2 to 4, and that sort of got pushed back. but it is true that we eventually are probably going to get developed out of the space as well.
Even if these farms can't last forever, the people who work there still believe the effort is worth it.
So often I think we look at the state of the world and what's happening with climate change, and it just feels so big. It's like, how do you possibly deal with a problem like that? But most of the time, after a couple of hours of planting seeds and mulching and weeding and just these sorts of like normal tasks that we often don't actually get to do in a city, I think it can really change people's perspective. Why do you do urban farming? It's not because you might forever change the landscape of your city. It's because you can forever change the people who interact with the land.